Good evening. Welcome to Gay Liberation Network's show on KNTV. It is a live call-in show, and tonight we're going to be talking with Buddy Bell, who has recently been to Honduras and participated in some of the activism that's going on there. Before we start, we have some announcements to make. First of all, our website, gayliberation.net, has further information on each of these announcements that are coming to you now. And this weekend we will be at the North Halstead Market Days, which is on Halstead Street. Our booth is between Belmont and Roscoe. So that's the 3200 to 3400 block of Halstead, and we are one of the booths there. Look for Gay Liberation Network with a large yellow banner and various flags. Additionally, in September, on the 10th, we will be having a educational discussion about what's happened and what the truth is that has come out since 9/11 and the war in Afghanistan. So who was right and what can we do? Please come out and learn something at the Merlot Public Library in Lakeview. And the last announcement before we begin our topic of discussion is the 10th anniversary, a decade of war in Afghanistan. We will be protesting at 12 noon, Saturday, October 8th. Please come out and join us at Michigan Avenue and Congress Parkway. We will be ending our march at Obama's headquarters as the administration continues this war going on past a decade. So, without further ado, Buddy Bell has been to Honduras recently and was able to participate in many things going on there, and so I'm going to somewhat turn it over to him to tell us first what the status is of LGBTs in Honduras.
Well, of course, it's always been a dangerous place, Honduras, for LGBT Hondurans. Before the coup happened, there was lots of hate crimes that happened, maybe 2 per year. There were 17 hate crimes in the 10-year period preceding the coup d'etat, the golpe, the overthrow of the elected president 2 years ago. But since in the past 2 years, there's been 45 reported hate crimes. So that's a jump. Of at least 22 hate crimes per year. Most of them happen in the first months after the coup, though. After the military took over the government institutions and there was an interim president, they instituted a nationwide 9 o'clock curfew for everyone in the country except for military forces. And a lot of these killings of gays and lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders happen during the nighttime. So as one of the activists I met with said, they know that the killings are related to the government forces because those are the only people that were in the streets at those times.
And it appears that there's some amount of visual LGBT presence in Honduras, even despite all these crimes.
Yeah, exactly. You're looking at the pictures of some of that, and a lot of the LGBT activists, even before the coup, they were they were part of the resistance, part of allied with Zelaya, who was the president who was overthrown. Since the coup, the LGBT activists have been an integral part in the resistance. You can see that whenever you talk to any other organizer, such as Berta Cáceres of the indigenous activist groups, or the Center for of the Families of the Disappeared, there's always people mentioning the input of LGBT activists, and they're unprompted. I didn't ask them about it. They just ended up using it as part of their presentations. So that impressed me a lot. It also shows that they recognize the contribution that LGBT activists have played as far as opposing the coup and trying to gain rights for people across the population, as far as people targeted by the coup government, the military government. And since there's been all this repression, there's also been protests carried out by LGBT activists that are also people in other sectors participate in these. They've had protests for the International Day Against Homophobia, and that was this year, May 17th, and last year, December 13th, which was the one-year anniversary of the killing of a prominent resistance activist who happened to be a gay man, Walter Troches. And they had a protest to call attention to the fact that gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders are still being killed. And those protests carry about 200 people. So people are not afraid to demonstrate in large groups, even in amidst all of the repression that happens.
Yeah, tell us about some of what's going on. The military forced the existing government out of office and put in this new government, and I'm sure the military is continuing to enforce that new government. What's the status of that?
Well, Zelaya was running up against the corporate elite in Honduras. In the 6 months before he was overthrown, he raised the minimum wage. He threatened to close the Palmarola base. There's a lot of reasons that the military decided to overthrow him, and these are people that were trained in the U.S. For instance, Romeo Vasquez, who is the commander of the Army, trained in the U.S. at School of the Americas in Georgia in 1976 and 1984. And their head of the Air Force, General Luis Javier Prince Suazo, was a graduate of the SOA in 1996.
We've got a caller. Why don't we take the call, and then we can continue with more about your trip. Hello, Steve.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to ask, compared to nowadays in other countries like Nicaragua and Guatemala, how historically, how supportive of LGBT rights has Honduras been?
Well, historically, I'm not sure I can really talk to historically. I know some general things. I know that it hasn't. I know that, for instance, in Nicaragua, sodomy was illegal. There was a charge called creating a scandal, which was the charge that a lot of LGBT Nicaraguans went to jail for before 2008. In 2008, that was repealed. And since then, I traveled to Nicaragua just a couple months ago, and you can see they've had 4 LGBT film festivals since 2008. They've had 3 pride marches, and these events are publicized all throughout Managua. As far as other countries, I'm not really too familiar. Costa Rica used to, they tried to have a demonstration, for example, in '99. The Catholic Church pressured the government to remove the permit for that march, but since then they've had other marches.
Okay.
So I hope that answers the caller's question. As far as Honduras right now, the current constitution forbids same-sex marriage, adoption. There's no anti-discrimination legislation in Honduras at all. That's another reason that the LGBT activists are in line with the resistance. These are people that want a new constitution in Honduras. And in order to make advances, we need to change the constitution in Honduras.
Another thing you saw while you were there was the destruction of a village. Tell us about that.
Okay, this was a village it's called Rigoris. They've had a lot of repression this summer. Before we were there, about a week before we were there, you can see pictures of how the military came in and they ran everyone out of their houses, burned houses to the ground. They came in with bulldozers and bulldozed houses. This is a country where in the rural areas 65% of Hondurans live in poverty. These families, about 200 of them, are now living in the community center, which functions as a living space and also a school. The school was also burned in this invasion. And actually, last week there was somebody shot in the heart by a passing military vehicle.
So the military government is doing what we just showed there in those pictures, and the resistance is still strong enough to come together in large groups quite bravely and demand change.
Yeah. This is a protest that happened outside of Palmarola Air Force Base, which is one of the reasons the elected president was overthrown was because he wanted to make the base where the U.S. has been for decades, he wanted to make it a civilian airport, which has been happening throughout Latin America. Different countries where U.S. has had bases, they're being kicked out of there. But Palmarola was called, in the 80s, it was called the unsinkable aircraft carrier for the terrorist wars against Nicaragua, El Salvador. And so the U.S. really wants to hold on to this base. It's for its strategic interests. But people see the connection between this base and the overthrow of their government, because this is also where the president was flown and the plane refueled before leaving the country, which was early proof of some kind of U.S. Collaboration with the coup plotters. The ambassador to Honduras at the time of the coup said that he called the coup a mess of illegal actions by every branch of government. But he didn't say that in public. That I'm quoting a secret cable that was leaked by WikiLeaks. In the early days of the coup, the Obama administration said that it was illegal. It was a military coup. In the weeks following, they got more and more tepid about criticizing Honduras in any way. But that shows that that's what they were thinking at the time. They knew it was illegal. And now we're 2 years into it, and we haven't withdrawn U.S. support.
There's an element of the current government and the coup trying to maintain control of, trying to maintain the system of private wealth, and the resistance and former government moving towards a more socialist system. What's going on with?
Well, like I said, Celaya raised the minimum wage from, it was $157 a month. He raised it to $289 a month. Another thing he did was issue a decree that people like in the town of Rigoris who've been living on land that they've been farming the land for over 10 years can get access to loans to buy the land from the international conglomerates who actually own it. And that was dangerous for the international companies such as Dole, Pineapple, such as the biofuels industry. And now that there's been a coup, there's also a movement among campesinos to move onto land and try to use it for local food instead of using it for African palm. You can see the African palm trees right there and the tents underneath. This is a plantation, a community, San Esteban, which is being occupied as we speak, and we went and visited on our delegation.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, this is a town on the coast. That's another aspect of this, is all the tourism industries want to get into Honduras, and they see an opportunity, especially with the Coup government, which amended the Constitution to allow coastal areas to actually secede from the country, so that a company can essentially own their own country within Honduras, and use it for timeshares, use it for tourism, that sort of thing.
How would you suggest that that we here support the resistance and the LGBT movement within Honduras to achieve some of the goals of our people there?
Well, definitely one of the main things people need to do is educate themselves. We get so much misinformation from the media, especially since there was an election in Honduras. You hear that there's an elected president now, it's back to democracy, but what you don't hear is that the resistance was not allowed to run a candidate in the last election. So over half the country did not run a candidate. The electorate voted between two candidates who supported the way it was in 2009. They supported the coup. They supported the fact that international corporations were coming in to take what was formerly indigenous land, to take what was Garifuna land, so that in order to find out what's the truth in Honduras, you need to investigate a little bit. If people wanted to Google certain groups, especially for LGBT folks, if you can go on YouTube and search for En Mis Tacones, which is ENMISTACONES. That's a documentary that's just come out about the trans community in Tegucigalpa, and if you view it, then you get more views. It becomes more widespread on YouTube. That's one thing people can do that's cheap. You can go to rightsaction.org. Rights Action is a group that sort of works with a lot of organization within the resistance, including LGBT organizations. You can send them a check or donate online, and you can actually specify where you want the funds to go. I personally know the person that manages the funds in Rights Action. I met her when I was there, so if you know me, then
Yeah.
use that as a reference. I think it's a totally legitimate place to donate. You can also Google Diversity and Resistance Movement, which is a movement of LGBTs in Spanish, it's Movimiento de Diversidad en Resistencia.
Okay.
And there's a new actually a new project going on with a contact I have who is working with the Fernando Reyes. He's the producer of En Mis Tacones, and they're working on a new project, the Walter Troches Alliance, which is trying to do theater, acts of theater plays to bring attention to the situation for Honduran LGBTs. So it's not up on the internet yet, but in the future, if you Google that, that's another thing you can do.
Okay. So enmistacones.org and
rightsaction.org, or go on YouTube and put in En Mis Tacones documentary, documental, and watch it.
Be some good viewing. This weekend, again, we are going to be at Market Days, and you can meet Buddy Bell there at our booth on Halstead between Belmont and Roscoe. We will also have information on Bradley Manning, who we have talked about a few times here on this show, the accused WikiLeaks informant that is being held in prison by our government, as well as some information on the Hyatt boycott, which we'll have further, so that hopefully you'll be hearing more about as we continue here. Other events, as discussed previously, are September 10th at the Merlot Public Library in Lakeview, 644 West Belmont. Learn about what has happened and what the truth is that has come out since 9/11 and the Afghanistan war. And then on October 8th, come Stop the War. 12 noon, Saturday, October 8th, Michigan Avenue, Congress Parkway. People will be coming from all over the Midwest and possibly country to converge on Obama's campaign headquarters here in Chicago to take the message that we really need to stop killing people all over across the world. So thank you and our next GLN meeting is Wednesday, September 14th at 7 o'clock. It is just off the Granville stop on the Red Line here in Chicago. And our next show is on CanTV right here, 6:30, Friday, August 26th. That is in just 2 weeks.